Thank you, Ted. Ted was going to give a lot more information about me, and then I reminded him that I was speaking after him, so he was very smart. So it's my honor to introduce Boland to you this morning. Boland is the founder and CEO of PGI. PGI calls itself the Meeting Experts. Whether it's a conference call, a webcast, virtual sales meeting, PGI provides audio and web meeting solutions for over 75% of the Fortune 500 companies in America. By PGI's count, that's over 40,000 years worth of meetings. I mean, just kind of think about that. That's still kind of... So, but PGI wasn't Boland's first run at entrepreneurship. In the mid-'80s, he started his first company, American Network Exchange. They were the first alternative to AT&T operator services. By 1991, he foresaw the future of business communications and founded Premier Global Services, which is now PGI. PGI has been recognized by Forbes magazine as one of America's 200 small best companies and received a growth award from Frost Sullivan in 2008. Boland says he supports a different approach to leadership. He believes in the power of innovation to make life easier, more efficient, and more cost-effective, and he has put money where his mouth is. Beyond his work at PGI, Boland has helped start and fund and launch more than 100 companies, even creating a unit at PGI that grows new businesses. So with that, I'm going to introduce Boland Jones, and thank you for coming and talking to us this morning.
Thanks, everybody. Richard, thanks. The alumni board, thank you very much. Appreciate it. I'm heartbroken I'm not a Georgia grad. Wish I was right this second. Wouldn't feel so uncomfortable. Went to the great Miami of Ohio and graduated from there with extreme honors. They were happy to get rid of me, and I was happy to leave. It's a very honorable event. I appreciate everybody coming here this morning to hear the little bit of wisdom I can impart on you today, or maybe some humor, or maybe to start your day off on a little lighter note. It's hard for me to take myself very seriously, so if my style comes off like that, that's why. I was driving to work this morning thinking about, gosh, what should I say this morning? Unlike most people, they probably have planned their speech and have got 24 PowerPoints to lead you through. I happen to hate PowerPoint. I can't stand it. Pretty much banned it in our company. And I like the idea of human interaction, and I like the idea of getting in front of people and really understanding who people are and letting them know who I am and sharing that connection. And so I enjoy talking. It's nervous for the first 5 minutes, and then you can't shut me up. So just wave when it gets old, and I'll turn it down. But driving to work today, one of the things I noticed is, first of all, the streets were empty at 6:45 when I had to go by my office and pick up some things to come here. But I always notice that people, when I'm following them in the Buckhead traffic, how slow everybody goes sometimes when you have to be somewhere. You ever get that feeling? And you're always thinking, God, it'd be so nice to have that life where you just don't care about what you're doing next or where you're going next. I can't possibly imagine that. I'm from a family of 7 kids. Parents luckily still alive. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky originally. Moved to Atlanta, Georgia specifically to start my married life, which has luckily gone great for 22 years. I've got 3 children. And to start the business that I have today, which is just over 20 years old. So super proud to be in Atlanta and super proud to be here with you today. I found when I moved to Atlanta, I was looking for a city that encouraged entrepreneurship. And I'm a super addicted, recovering entrepreneur. And I found this city surprisingly, for the South, I found it surprisingly accepting at that time of people coming into the city, people moving to the city. I met more people here than I've met in most cities that aren't from here. And that was a nice welcome and mixture along with the people that are from here, the proud Georgians that are here. And so this town has been super underrated in my humble opinion as far as the United States goes in regards to entrepreneurship. People think of the West Coast, people think of Palo Alto as the home of invention, the home of innovation, and so forth. But as you look back on Atlanta, starting with the founding companies of this city, Coca-Cola, not to mention a few, and then you get to the Ted Turners, the ultimate entrepreneurs, and then you start from there and think about it. People in this city have changed, through entrepreneurialism, have changed the world. WebMD, internet banking with S1. Just think about it as you go through those names and you go through those people that did that and led those ways. That was a real eye-opener as I thought about that, of how many people have started here and have made this home that have had an impact on the way we do business. The economy today is bizarre. That's all I can tell you. It's scary at one end of it, and at the other end of it, people are making more money than they've ever made before. It's very hard to understand. You've seen the jokes, I'm sure, and you've seen the things on the internet, the cartoons about Apple, and you know, I don't care, I want an iPhone 4, I don't care, I want an iPhone 4. Have you seen those where they say, well, you get this Android and it does everything and it does run Flash. That's okay, I want an iPhone 4. Well, this Android's cheaper. That's okay, I want an iPhone 4. I mean, those type of companies just can do no wrong right now. Netflix is another one. You can go on and on. Salesforce, these companies defy gravity. On the other hand, you have companies that are having the worst days of their lives. And so you had this sort of split tape in this economy, which is super bizarre. But it gets to the point of what I just wanted to talk about today, which are two words that are hard for people to deal with. And that is risk and change. And those are the two words you really have to strap on in today's economy. And I was thinking about this morning when I was getting ready to come here, and I was thinking, how would you describe risk and change, and how would you describe what's happening? When I started, Premier Technologies is what it was called when I started P-Tech. And we like to change our name every 2 or 3 years. So we incorporate the word change in our business. When I started it, I was 26 years old. No, I was 30 years old, 29 years old, almost 30 years old. And what I was doing at the time, people looked at here in Atlanta. As a matter of fact, I won't name them, but I went and looked, I sought venture capital to start my company here in Atlanta, and met with a prominent venture group here, and they said, boy, this is a very interesting presentation. We just need to ask you one favor. Could you see our industrial psychologist to make sure that we could work together? I thought, you know, translated, you're insane, kid, but if I can have you checked out and I can get a file blessing on this, I can put some money into you. It ends up I didn't go see that psychologist because I told the gentleman promptly, I can tell you this is an insane idea. But at the time, when you see new ideas about entrepreneurism, when you see new ideas, you think that's the craziest thing I ever looked at. You know, if somebody showed you Facebook or somebody showed you social networking and you've never heard of it or seen it before, you would walk away shaking your head. I can remember when a guy from Goldman Sachs 9 years ago tried to explain Google to me. And I was like, that's interesting. You think you can sell that? He said, no, they'll give it away. I said, oh man, one of those. You know, like, okay, here we go again. So, the craziest ideas, as we look back at them, were the right ideas, right? So where are you in the cycle in entrepreneurism? And that's what I want to talk about today, because I think it's a really interesting subject. If you're 25 or 30 years old or 35 years old and you're just starting a business, you think today's environment is normal. You know, you think, well, I'll get in there, I'll give it away, I'll sell advertising to it, I'll ramp up to 7 million customers, and I'll sell it to some big giant corporation, or I'll take an angle that has social networking incorporated in it, or I'll take an angle that has gaming incorporated in it, or I'll take one of the mega trends and work on it. If you have an established business today, which I know a lot of you work with or work for or have of your own in this room, banking, real estate, so forth and so on, you look at these ideas and you say, you're either scared for your business and you're scared for your livelihood, literally, or you're looking at these things going, that's the craziest thing I ever saw, and that's ridiculous, and this is the way we've been doing things for years. So it depends on, when it comes to the word risk and change, those words, it depends on where you are in the cycle of entrepreneurism, where you are in the cycle of business. If I told you 50 years from now that the biggest real estate company in the world would not own any physical real estate, you would excuse me from this breakfast meeting probably kindly and tell me don't come back. But that may very well be the case. And virtual office environments may be the future of real estate. And I know that the real estate industry is very big here in the Atlanta area, in Buckhead. Same with finance. Same with the banking industry. Where are you in the curve of that industry? You know, if I told you 50 years ago that debit cards were it for the people at Harlan Checks and so forth and so on, you know, they would say, well, why would you use a debit card when you've got these checks? Or like my wife, who still doesn't understand checks, she would just write checks, and there's no money in that account, but that didn't matter because she still had checks in her checkbook. At least with her debit card now, she gets stopped at the point of purchase when she overspends. She doesn't like that either. So risk and change and entrepreneurism are all, I think, really closely related. And so sometimes when you talk about entrepreneurism, which I like to talk about, whether it's the subject of the day or not, and I think that's what drives the innovation in the businesses that we're all in, and it advances the business we're all in, it creates the growth we're all in, and it creates the economies we're all sitting in, that entrepreneurism. Depending on where you are in the cycle, entrepreneurism, you know, has two things involved in it that everybody in this room hates normally, which is risk and change. Human beings don't like to change. And as you examine yourself today and examine your life today, if I told you everything you did today was going to change tomorrow, you would not like that. When they told me I'm going to lose my BlackBerry and I've got to get on an iPhone, I didn't like that. I personally am not a big technology person. Technology for me is a utility. I'm not one of the people that seeks out an application on my iPhone to do the next thing. I do the next thing, and then if technology can enable it, I'm okay with it. I don't like change, and I think I'm like most people. So I had to take a risk to move to an iPhone. But if I don't move to the iPhone, I feel like I'm missing what's happening in the world around me and what's going to happen in the world around me. And I also feel like I have a fear that I'm losing my edge if I'm not on that new technology and I'm not getting inspired from that technology on how to improve my business. I don't know if y'all ever feel that way. So let me tell you a little bit about our business and risk and change. And everybody can relate to it, and I can make it a quick, funny story. Obviously, we started our business 20 years ago, and calling cards were the thing. So if you want to laugh about that, there were no cell phones at the time, and so we figured out a way around the phone company to make better, cheaper, long-distance calls. Sort of the early on Skype, if you will. As that industry faded, we got rid of that business, and we bought other businesses. We've bought fax businesses. We've bought voice messaging businesses. Thinking, you know, we're constantly looking for the future. And the fun I have at my company that I'm very spoiled for is that I get to reinvent that company every 4 or 5 years. I also look at it and go, holy crap, I got to reinvent this company every 4 or 5 years. But that's the change and the risk that you need to be attuned to. In today's economy, I'm telling you right now, from a source that you can or cannot believe, depending on what you choose, if you aren't out there on that risk curve and you aren't looking to change every day, your business will not exist in the near future. It just will not. Think about what's happening. Since we were born in this room, the average person in this room was born, there was a little over 2 billion people on the earth. There's now approaching 7 billion people on the earth. It's a little bit like going from my high school tennis team to college tennis. I thought, I'm a state champion in high school. I'm a pretty badass tennis player. I get to college, I'm like, holy crap, I'm the worst guy here. And it's a little bit like that feeling, you know, when you think your company's doing great and you go to a company conference and you talk to other companies, you're like, my God, we are in trouble. I got to get home and change everything we're doing. We're so far behind, it's unbelievable. And so you really need to be looking at what you're doing. Even if you work for somebody, you need to be looking at what you're doing, versus if you're running something, you need to be looking at what you're doing. And you need to tune up the risk and the change factors in a big way. Let's talk about some examples. The obvious examples are the airline business. We happen to have one of the world's largest airlines right here in our hometown called Delta. Love it or not, that's our airline, and it's wonderful, a spoiling fact that we can fly anywhere from this city pretty much in a day and get back here that night. And so it's a great advantage for us. But their model has run out, and they're trying to figure out what the next model is. So, you know, now they take their tickets from $400 to $200 and charge you another $200 for your bags. And they're searching. They're still getting $400 from you, right? But they're searching for the next model badly. And if fuel prices spike, their model breaks. And so they're wondering, you know, what is the future of that? If you talk to the guy at Ryanair over in Ireland who claims he invents a lot of this stuff, he tells you that you will stand on a plane like you stand on a subway in the next 10 years. Which you'd think, well, that's crazy, you know, but he predicted charge for bags, he predicted charge for peanuts, charge for pillows, you know, so they just have to keep evolving that model or they're going to lose. And you say, how could they lose? They own every gate in our city. But they will lose because we'll find a way around it. Through technology and innovation, we'll find a way around it. You look at other institutions like banks I mentioned earlier. Banks are searching hard now for the new evolution of the bank industry, of the finance industry in total. While spreads may be good today because the government elects to keep our monetary policy at a point where they can borrow money and lend money for a nice spread to keep them in business, other places are getting cracked down on, like the Consumer Protection Act, where they can't charge for your debit card transactions anymore. And so now the ING bank, the ING bank, is starting to look pretty smart. No real estate. A little bit like the example I gave about real estate offices in the future may not be real estate offices. Real estate's going through a major change. My own company, you know, we have offices all around the world. We have offices in about 25 countries, and we are slimming down on offices. If you look at the trend over the last 10 years, we shrunk our office space 50% because we are starting to do more of those things that everybody else is doing, flex hours. People can work from anywhere with smartphones. People can work from anywhere with video conferencing. You know, people can get things done. So that industry is going to change and evolve. Who knows? You know, Terminus, where it may be all condos by the time it's over, in a work, live, play area, and you know, you work in your condo and live in your condo. And then there's the Netflix story that everybody likes to talk about. It's a great story. I don't understand the story personally. I do understand it, but I don't understand the value metrics to the story, right? So we were all renting DVDs from Netflix, and he says, you know what, I'm going to kill my own business, and I'm going to stream these things for $8 a month instead of $4 a DVD. And everybody said, my God, what are you doing? I'm sure his board probably looked at him and said, you're crazy as hell. You know, and his stock's gone from a mediocre stock up to a $200 and something stock. And he's the darling of his industry, and he's the leader in thought. All these things are risky moves changing. That's the bottom line, and that's what you have to look at today. People are changing everything. People don't want to live in bigger homes, they want to live in smaller homes. People want to be more flexible. People want to change what they drive. People want to change how they work. So we're going through a big change. What causes the big changes? What causes the acceleration in changes? In my opinion, it's economy. When you have a recession like we had, and you have a dip like we're enduring right now, what happens? Everybody freaks out. Nothing is sacred anymore. Anything's on the table. Right? Companies that used to never give our little conference company a look in the last 2 years have called us and said, you know what? Come on back up here to New York. We want to sit down with you. We've been an AT&T customer forever, or we've been a this customer forever, or a Cisco customer. We have telepresence rooms, but maybe you're right. Maybe that isn't the way to go. So everything's on the table. What happens with the 7 billion people and the internet now? Man, you can develop technology in what used to be a 5-year cycle in 5 weeks. So everything's accelerated. So when everybody's in the dumps on the economy and everybody's looking for a way out, the biggest thing is we got to save more money, we got to grow our businesses faster with less. And so here comes the technology surge. And so in a way, this economy is very scary, but in a way it's very exciting, because the opportunities that start appearing is what's going to drive our economies for the next 20 or 25-year cycle until we have an explosion again, or an implosion, I should say again. My business started in 1991. It was the worst economy on earth, so they said then. Real estate was in the tank. Banks were crashing. Literally, the Bank of New England went out of business that year. I couldn't raise $5 of capital for a new business idea, much less start a new business. And people said, 1, your idea is crazy, and 2, it's a terrible time to start a business. As I look back on that, those are 2 of the most incorrect statements in the world. This is the time to start a business, because as I spoke about earlier, where are you in the cycle? If you start a business right now, you're in the beginning of the technology cycle. It's harder if you have a business right now to retrofit it for this cycle. Does that make sense? 10 years ago, or 12 years ago, in the year 2000, 11 years ago, we were a plenty good, billion-dollar-plus market cap communications company. We had 2 or 3 companies that we owned. We looked like a holding company. Everything was great. My dear friend Jeff Arnold and I schemed, and he started WebMD in our offices. And the more entrenched business people here kind of got a chuckle out of it. They're like, yeah, it's cute. It's not real business, but it's nice. It's a nice, and he's a good kid, and he can really pitch. Some of those businesses aren't here anymore. And WebMD, I'm proud to say, is still a thriving business. In fact, I went to a doctor recently, an allergy doctor. I'm always looking for allergy cures because I have terrible allergies. And I went to a guy that has you hold something in your hand and raise your arm and press on it. And he presses real hard when he wants you to fail, and then he doesn't press very hard. I noticed when he's like, see, it's better, $25. And he handed me a list of things that I'm allergic to, and I noticed at the bottom, the source is webmd.com, and I just started chuckling. I was like, we couldn't sell this, if we couldn't give this away 10 years ago, and now doctors are citing it as the industry standard. It's pretty funny, right? So you have to think, if you're at the beginning of the cycle, nothing is crazy. Everything is fine. If you're in the middle of the cycle, you chuckle. And if you're at the end of the cycle, you just probably kind of look away and go, man, I'm glad I'm not involved in that tornado anymore. But these moments in our economy actually breed great opportunity. I'm sick of people, and I'm sick of myself being depressed about the state we're in. What you got to do is eventually get all the depression out, and then you got to say, okay, fine, I got to turn into this. I got to face it and deal with it, right? It's the best way to deal with it. In the last 2 days, I have been pitched 5 business deals that are the most outrageous, great ideas you've ever heard in your life because of this economy. Because of this economy. I mean, people are creating work because of this economy. So what happens is you have to just get over the mindset, if you're in that mindset, that this economy is running out for you. It is if you're not ready for risk and change. It's just beginning for you if you can embrace risk and change. If you think I'm BSing you, here's the idea yesterday I got that was a great idea was I'm going to be the network solutions. Do you know who that is? That's the .com reservoir, right, that controls all the .com addresses, network solutions. VeriSign, I think, has bought them, right? And so this person came to me and said, I'm going to create a directory for all the video conferencing rooms in the world and just have an easy directory. So if you want a video conference from your video conference TV in your office with somebody in another office, you have no idea how to do that. If I could create a directory where you could just push a button and say, I want to talk to Boland Jones in Atlanta because I know he has a video conferencing TV sitting in front of him, either from Polycom or Tannenberg or Cisco, he's going to put them all on the same directory. So you can just click on your computer and see somebody in that directory. Nobody has that. Nobody's done that. I mean, those ideas are being born every day. So it just depends on if you can embrace risk and change and where you are in the cycle. Let me read to you, I'll tell you a quick story, but let me read to you some of these stats that I wanted to bring you today. I know people read stats all the time, and they're like, hey, look how many Facebook accounts are on everything. But here's some interesting stats that you may not know. That they're on the internet. But you remember the first YouTube was posted in 2005. And I remember looking at it back then, encouraged by a friend of mine, you got to look at this, everything's going to video. I'm like, what are you kidding me? And it was a little square on my screen, and the rest was white. There's only one little square video there, and it said, click here to see the video. And it was kind of crappy. Since then, they've delivered 2 billion views of videos, right? The number of text messages is more than the number of phone calls in the world today. If you start a new business today, can you believe these glasses? If you start a new, I hate it. It's just started. 51, I made it 51 years. If you start a business today, you do your Facebook page first and then you incorporate your business. I mean, this is where people are getting in at the beginning of the cycle, and they don't find it risky or changey at all. But if you're in the cycle, you do have to get accustomed to that change and that risk. There's a couple other on here that I think are interesting. 70% share of Facebook users are located outside the United States, if you think the United States leads technology. You always think, you know, where you are is your point of view. And when I'm in the United States, I'm like, God, everybody's got an iPhone. Holy crap, I'm going to have to get one of these. Next thing, I'm in our London office, everybody has BlackBerries. I'm like, huh, maybe I'm okay. Then I go to our Indian office, and it's like everybody's got Androids there. So it's funny, you got to really put yourself in a worldly state these days, economy-wise, because people can buy from you on the internet from anywhere. When we first started P-Tech, and I came up with the calling card idea, this is what a dumb redneck I am. I put the ads in Sky Magazine on Delta, and that launched my company, that in the military. And I got a call one day from our customer service department. I went downstairs, you know, and I said, what's wrong? They said, there's people calling us, and they're speaking languages we don't understand. I'm like, well, how's that possible? And somebody goes, I think Delta flies internationally. I'm like, holy crap. So everything's from your point of view, but here's the story of risk and change for our company today. About 3 years ago, I was getting ready to tell you a story. 10 or 12 years ago, I went to the board and said, we need to just take $50 million of our savings and just put it in internet companies. And they looked at me like, oh my gosh, here we go. But he owns most of the companies, so I guess we got to do it. He says, no, that's not what they said. They said, well, let's do this in an organized manner and so forth and so on. And that's what really launched our company, because we couldn't get into the internet business and the telephony business because there wasn't such a thing as VoIP technology back then, voice over the internet. So that's what drove us to help start SONE, WebMD, all these other startups that we have been fortunate enough to be in. And lo and behold, that $50 million turned into $350 million accidentally. Now, that was luck. It was not skill. And those times are gone, and there's new times coming. But the point of it was that board was super nervous about that risk, where I was like, look, we've got $100 million in the bank. We can't spend it. Our businesses are profitable. There's nothing else to buy. This internet, you know, this interweb thing is something we ought to look into. And it's only 10 years old today, right? The commercialization of it's only 10 or 12 years old today, so we still need to look into it. But about 3 years ago, I went to our board and I said, we need to get rid of all our business except for the conferencing business, the meeting business. And why would you do that, Boland? As they are so very accommodating with some of my dumb ideas, and I have a lot of them, but there's some good ones in there. Who watches Mad Men in here? Anybody? I was a big fan of that. Do you remember when who's the star, I can't remember the character's name, Don, used to tell his advertising creative, hurry up and show me more ideas that I hate so that I can get to the one that I like, which I thought made a lot of sense at the time when I watched that, and that's probably how my board thinks about me. But I told them, I said, we need to get rid of everything but the meeting business. These other businesses look good right now, but they're not going to look good in the future, and we could sell them now. We got to get rid of them and shrink our company. So we went from $650 million to $450 million last year in revenue, and we gave up about $50 million in EBITDA. And we went through a terrible time, and our stock's been hit and so forth and so on, but this is going to be the right thing. And I said, here's my theory. Everybody is going to turn into a group meeting. Everybody is going to do group communications. Remote workforces are here to stay. IBM's been pioneering it, but now everybody's suddenly adopting it. That's theory number one. Theory number two, gaming, social networking, and group get-togethers are going to merge. Those mega trends are going to merge. That's my second theory. Mark it down. I'm sure I'm wrong. You can laugh at me 10 years from now. And my third theory is everything is going to be video-enabled for communication in 10 years. So we're really good at holding group meetings from remote places. We need to invent a video way to do it. And I told them that Facebook and Skype would be the demise of our company if we did not do it. And of course they said, well, you know, come on, you do all the meetings for Citigroup. You do all the meetings for Bank of America. You all do the meetings for Goldman Sachs. How is that possible? How are they going to meet on Facebook? I said, I'm not sure, but anything that is that prevalent and that fast growing is going to also be inventing itself and reinventing itself as it goes. And today it's asynchronous, but tomorrow it could be synchronous very easily. And if that doesn't work for you, Google's going to give it away, and they're going to get into it. And if that, you know, I just kept naming things, and I said, this is what's going to be the hottest trend in the world. And it's not going to be conference calls for businesses. It's going to be mom and two kids meeting on video, you know, a la Skype. Or it's going to be two grandparents and two grandchildren. It's a group. It's a meeting. You know, we can expand that term. We won't be able to charge for it like we used to. We're going to have to come up with other ways to do it. But if we don't do this, somebody else is going to do it to us. So the other thing I try to do is create the boogeyman that would ruin our business in our business, so that I wouldn't be outpaced by the boogeyman outside our business that I didn't control. And that's the risk and the change that I get back to. You've got to do that, and you've got to work on that. And I gave you some examples a little while ago. Netflix was one of them, but there's a ton of examples how people are literally looking crazy, like they may be bastardizing their current business for a new trend or a new way to do their business. But that's what you got to be looking at. So that's how our company is trying to reinvent itself and take the risk and make the changes we need to make. And that's the entrepreneurism that it's going to take for people to keep up with this economy. But this economy, you can look at it. I go home every other day and I'm like, holy crap, I should just sell this thing. I've been blessed. I've had some great experiences. Everything's great. And then other days I go home and go, I think this business could be $2 billion in the next 5 years. It's a real emotional swing, but I see things that people are doing. But here's the one thing I'll leave you with in the very end. Regardless of how we do what we do as entrepreneurs, one thing that you can bet on that stays constant is human beings. As I said in the beginning of the speech, you guys hate to change, and you don't like risk. It's inherent in all of us. We don't like it, especially when we get comfortable and we get used to things. Complacency is within all of us. And it's not just you're losing your edge, it's just, you know, it's more comfortable. And if as you get older, you get in your 40s, you get in your 50s, you're like, I'm not going to do that. You know, other people would do that. When I was younger, I'd do that, but I'm not going to do that now. And that's exactly why the risk and change agents are going to eat you alive in this economy, in this current state going forward of innovation and technology. But the bottom line is, if you want to, and if you're ready to, there's more opportunity now for your business. And the people that use your services, the people that buy your products, the people that buy your whatever you're selling, they will not stop buying those things. That's the constant you can depend on. They'll just do it in different ways. Does that make sense? People are not going to stop conferencing. They just may do it under different means, under different technology in different ways, but people still have to have these meetings, these remote meetings. And that's the one constant that you can depend on with human beings. Motorola and Nokia, shame on you. You let Apple take the phone business away from you, the handset business away from you. Smartest people in the world, Motorola is like Ma Bell. You know, those are smart science. Smart science in that company. Same with Nokia. And then up pops an iPhone. That's because they got complacent and their risk and change went way down. And somebody else nailed them. But we didn't stop using phones. We didn't stop consuming the handset. Right? We're just consuming it differently. Think about anything you do, any technology you use, it's what you've been doing. The technology's just made it easier. You don't get the false impression that people aren't doing the same things anymore. They are. Business is conducted the same way for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's just the enablement is different. And so that's how you got to think about it. Anyway, so risk and change, that's what you got to get out there and get into, risk and change. So thank you very much. And if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to take any questions anybody has for me. Thank you.
Just wanted to mention all of this is being webcast, and so we have a couple of microphones in the back. If you'll just indicate you have a question, fantastic. Talk, Boland. Thank you. I know we'll have some interested folks who want to ask, so if you'll just get the microphone and then everyone can hear it wherever they might be.
Paul, for the presentation. Yep. You spoke a lot about risk and change. What do you do at a managerial or functional level to drive change and avoid risk within your company, or to take risk intelligently? What kind of, yes, the question is, how do you manage risk and change in your company?
I think I spoke on the product side and the innovation side. On the management side, I assume you're talking about the human resources portion of the company. Is that what you're going towards?
Sure. I mean, how are you organized, and what's your mandate and message to your people?
That's a great question. I try to give this same injection of entrepreneurism every day in our company. One of the basic principles of our company that we've been successful with is give people ownership and challenge people. So we don't have a traditional top-down hierarchy. We don't have a matrix hierarchy that you may study in school either. We have sort of groups. And so those groups are very much in charge of themselves, and those groups deliver a piece of the puzzle every day with the other groups, in conjunction with the other groups. So we have a product team that concentrates on products, but they also meet with the sales team, and the sales team has its own leader, and they have their own budgets, and they're awarded on sort of mini businesses in each of these areas, how they run their business, how profitable they are, what kind of return they generate, and how much they spend. And then all the incentives are driven in that same way. So it's not, we don't do company incentives like where are we on revenue and EBITDA for the year as a company. We do very specific incentives, very specific MBOs in those segments of the business, in those pockets of the business. And we try to create the idea that if you're running one of those areas, that you are your own small business. If you want to not come in during the day and you want to run your business outside the business, that's fine. If you want to telecommute, that's fine. If your group wants to do things a certain way, that's fine within reason. But you have to produce, and you have to produce your piece of what we need daily, and you have to support that piece. So we try to create atmospheres where people can invent. You know, I don't care if they even use competitive technology tools. In fact, when they do, I try to get them to tell me why they're using those competitive technology tools and try to learn from it. So it's a totally it's a benevolent dictator society in our company with opportunity to be your own entrepreneur, if that makes sense. And once you show us that you can do that, then the world is yours. Then you can advance and grow in our company.
Boland, as a follow-up to that, as you're looking at your people, how do you kind of get them in the right seat on the bus? In other words, there's some of us who are creative, there are some of us who are more black and white and comfortable with numbers, and obviously all those people have a place. Do y'all have anything special that y'all do through your HR and hiring process to kind of help that along, and then afterwards, after they get in, to continue to try to find the right seat on the bus so that they can work to their strengths and get the best out of it?
So I was born and raised a Catholic, hardcore Irish Catholic family, still am. We moved for about 3 years to Colorado about 7 years ago, or 8 years ago, and ran right into I put my kids in a little school at the bottom of Beaver Creek out in Vail, Colorado. Just said, you know, they're little, it doesn't matter, let's stay here for a year, this is great. And where are we going to go to church? Okay, there's no Catholic church here. Okay, here's a Christian church, let's try that. And walked into an evangelical Christian church and just loved it. I said, God, if they could speak like this in the Catholic church, plus have communion, we'd have a dynamite, you know. So I worked on that business plan for a while. Fortunately, the Catholics review everything every 500 years, so it's a bad interval right now. But I fell in love with this pastor, just a great guy, and I ended up hiring him. And I turned into the devil at that church, and I had to stop going there. But I hired a pastor, a trained theologian that was just an incredible guy from a great mixed background, and I made him the head of our HR. And it was a shocking move for our company. Boy, he's really done it now. He's out there in Colorado. Somebody needs to go get him. But in hiking with this guy and hanging out with this guy, he brought a whole fresh new look to how you train up people from the inside out, and how you train them up to be a better person, which is opposite of what you'd think at work. And then from the better person, from the better spiritual person, and not hokey-finokey spiritual, just, you know, feeling better about yourself, you then feel better. Then you're a better person in your family community, and all of a sudden you're a better person at work, and then you're susceptible to accepting good leadership training. So it was a totally opposite of what you'd think strategy. And so I then moved to Austin, Texas, and created a Chief People Officer training facility. And then I put together a training app on the web. And this person brought in all his friends from around the world, and we built this thing. And I spent about 2 years doing it. And then we started spending about $3 or $4 million a year in meetings. Not meetings like we're going to come have PowerPoints, meetings like we're going to go to Lake Oconee, and we're going to stay at the Ritz, and we're going to go over to Durhamtown and ride motorcycles with 30 people, dirt bikes, and then come back and just do whatever and have fun, but talk about, you know, what's to come in our business, and talk about some of this people training, people development. And it has advanced our business like I cannot tell you. I've got incredible leadership in my company. My company, you know, it took me a long time to figure out leadership. Everybody goes through their own development of it, but it's been incredible. And it was really not accepted in our company to begin with. And it had to have CEO sponsorship. And it was like, you get behind this or you get out. You know, people willingly did. And now that person is now in a more creative role and really not practicing the people officer role as much because the company has changed. And so now our hiring policies have changed, everything's changed, it's pretty neat. And so we've got a great group of people because of it. Bizarre answer, you weren't waiting for that answer.
No,
on the topic of risk and change, I know that you want to be forward thinking and be out ahead of the curve and everything else, but what do you look to mitigate that risk? Like if someone comes in with an off the wall idea, what core things do you look at to make that risk worthwhile?
It's so interesting you ask that, because as you age in your career, which I hate to admit, and it's like, what was the guy on Top Gun? He came in, if you saw that movie, came in and put his medals on the desk and told the guy, I've lost the edge. And I'm always worried about that. So depending on the day you get me and the biorhythms I'm experiencing, if you got a crazy enough idea, I'm probably going to help you with it. Most of the times I will accept it. But I know at this point in my business how to step through that idea. I don't shy away from bizarre ideas. I encourage them, because if we don't encourage those bizarre ideas, we're going to end up losing, because it's going to be one of those crazy ideas that you laugh at, all of a sudden could be the new business model, right? There's countless stories, of that happening right here in our hometown. I was talking to somebody before we came in here. Chris Klaus and Tom Noonan were sitting in their dorms right here at a local university trying to hack into people's internet connections for a joke. And out of that was born ISS, a very successful firm that was later sold to IBM. I mean, things start in a weird way sometimes. So I try to hear them all. I try to encourage it. But after a while, you know how to step those people through it, and hopefully you're training them to say, okay, take your crazy idea and test it against these 10 questions or 5 questions. And if it still rinses out, then let's try it. And then what we'll do is we'll take a segment of our customers and we'll test it. Today we have PGI is the main brand. We hold for the big companies around the world. We do about 12 million meetings a month. A quarter of meetings, about 50 million meetings a year. They say nobody cares about conferencing until one of them doesn't go well, and then the CEO is undressing you promptly. So it's a mission critical service. It's very important. But we're working on ideas now about selling it by the meeting. We're working on ideas now of putting it in an app store and selling it by the drink, or selling it in different ways. We're trying to test crazy ideas. We've got 6 or 7 brands that you've never heard of. We run a brand called Save on Conferencing. We run a brand called Budget Conferencing, and we do all our testing in those customer segments. And so you got to have a green field that you can test those things, and that's the way we look at those things. Yes?
One of your very insightful themes was around this market, in the bizarre market, creating a great opportunity to be out there and be entrepreneurial and start businesses. But it is also still a tough market to raise capital and seek funding. Do you have any advice to entrepreneurs who do want to take advantage of this market and other ways that they might approach raising capital in this environment?
I've got some advice. I don't know if it's sage advice or good advice. First piece of advice is, if you're having trouble raising capital, come see me. I'm an addicted entrepreneur. It's hard for me to say no. And, in the good days, it used to be, I'm good for 100 grand. Anything over that, I need to see a business plan. Now it's like, okay, hold on. I'm good for 25. After that, I need to see a business plan. No, it's a great question. I think the first thing is you need to attack this market on money raising like you're looking at the market itself. The traditional places to go probably aren't the places that are going to seed a new idea in this market. And the age of these funds and the age of these money sources. If you're looking at people that are running, Coca-Cola money and promising them a 6% return, all the dynamics have changed, right? And if you're, everybody's getting paid a fee, right? They're getting paid a fee to run the money. So they're going to lose the money and have to give it back and lose their fee. That's what they're lived in. They're entrenched sometimes, and so some of those things, only want to buy safe opportunities. which is crazy because there are no safe opportunities today. If you're not in a new opportunity, you're really unsafe, in my humble opinion. But you know, everybody's today, like in 1990 when I started my business, everybody's looking for yield. You know, they're like, hey, I'd like to invest in you, but Microsoft's paying 5.5%, and I just soon park my money there. I'm a little nervous right now. And so you have to do a couple things. You have to craft your offering. Number one, you know, you have to do things like look at convertible debentures. You have to say, look, I need 100 grand, 75 of it is going to get an interest rate of 8% and 25 is going in as capital, and I get to call up and convert your 75 when I reach a certain point in my business. So you have to model for the times. 10 years ago, nobody cared about yield because everything was going up. Today, every asset I own, every day, is losing value. I don't care what asset it is because the dollar's repricing. Everything's resetting. What everybody needs to get hold of is anything you have, including your savings account, is worth less than you think it is. So if you can get in your mind to mark yourself down, and that's where everybody is you're seeking money from as well. So you've got to design your money raise in such a way that is of that time, and yield is everything. So you want to look at who you're going to. You want to look at companies perhaps that are looking to have some venture themselves, some non-traditional ways, and you've got to shape your offering to meet the times, which is yield right now.
Thank you. All set. Thank you all very much.
Wow, very eye-opening. Before we share something last year with Boland, I'd like to just again thank everyone for attending. This is really a high-energy crowd for such an early time of the day. And your ticket out of here in the parking garage is just tell them you were here with the Terry College, and they'll raise the gate for you. Boland, this really was a fantastic talk, and we are appreciative of your time. And I think as we see in this time of risk and change, seeing things differently is sometimes hard to do. So I think that you've done a great job in making that hit home for all of us. Loretta Eby is a very talented artist, and she's come up with something that we have been giving as a keepsake for this event. So we'd like you to have this and have a little bag for it. And again, if you'll all join me in welcoming and again thanking Boland for this great time today.